Hi, I'm Jeff. This is Tropical Plants at 53 degrees north, and we're going to risk the selfie camera today, so I hope we don't get any pixelation. Probably will, but we'll see. So we're going to talk today about one particular plant which is in bloom for me now. It's quite a rare plant from what I've found out, and it's known, and it goes by the name of, well, there's a couple of names actually, Ada Aurantiaca. Mine is the variety punctata, which I found absolutely nothing about on the internet. But anyway, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to move in a little bit for this one. So this is Ada Aurantiaca, variety punctata. And my label here, I'll just hold this up to the camera. Now you can see how it's spelt, save me putting a pop-up. And I've repotted it a couple of times, repotted it in, I can't read that in the camera, March 19 and then again in November 19. There's a couple of reasons for repotting it. One was, well, it was bursting out of the pot, and the other one was that it had quite a bad attack of scale at one point, which I'll come to in a minute. But before we get into that, let's just go through my sources of information for this and a little bit about the history of this particular plant. So I've had this plant for a couple of years now. It did flower for me once, probably over 12 months. It wasn't last year, but it was the year before, probably spring 2018 that would have taken it to. But it had quite a bad attack of scale at the time, and it didn't flower for very long. And I stuck it in the house, knowing absolutely nothing about orchids and growing orchids, nothing about this particular plant. They do say, don't they, that teaching something to people is the best way to learn it yourself, and that's absolutely true. I mean, I was a primary school teacher for 20 odd years, and there's no doubt in my mind that when you're faced with a bunch of kids and you know you've got to teach them something, you better make sure you know a little bit about it yourself first. So I've got two angles to this really. One is my experience with it, and the other is what I've since found out about it, or what I've tried to find out, bearing in mind the discussion we had a while back about sources of information. So I've gone to various sources. Now the first one that I came to, I'm gonna have to look at my notes here, was called jstor.org, which claims to be, I'm sure they are, digital, like an online digital resource, like a library, digital library aimed at academics, academic institutions, researchers, students and so on. And they publish scientific papers, white papers. So the first bit of information was a white paper. I thought, great, finally got some scientific information here about this. But what you tend to find with these things is that they go into the botany of it, and they'll tell you where it comes from, but as far as they're concerned, where it comes from and then growing it in an artificial situation is not something that concerns them at all. They're not in the least bit interested in how you would grow it. They are more interested in the the botanical structure of the blooms and the leaves, and what the taxonomy is, how it fits into different genera, the various species. So it really, while all that is very interesting, it doesn't really give you what you want as a grower, growing it in somewhere where it's completely the opposite of where it normally comes from. As far as they're concerned, this particular plant comes from various countries in South America. That's all they need to know in terms of how it grows. Everything else that they come up with tells you about, what I've just said, the other information, which I can tell you a little bit about, which you might find interesting. Again, I'll have to keep looking at my notes here. So this is also known as Brassia aurantiaca. Now, the white paper that I looked at did say that although this resembles some blooms of Brassia, it isn't actually related. Now this particular, I've just pulled a little bit off. This particular genus called Ada Aurantiaca is the species, There's about 8 species. They are epiphytic. Some of them are lithophytic. They grow on rocks. Epiphytic meaning they grow up in trees, on the branches and crooks and crannies, and in the moss of trees. They're not a parasite. They don't take anything from the tree other than the nutrients that washes down and the moisture that it provides. So what was I saying? Yeah, Brassia. So this particular white paper said that although it resembles a Brassia, it isn't actually part of the Brassia genus. However, other information, which looked to me to be a little bit more up to date, did say that it's now known as Brassia aurantiaca, and even Q accept Brassia aurantiaca as a synonym for Ada Aurantiaca. So I really don't know the full taxonomy of that, whether it is now considered part of Brassia genus. I guess it must be if Q are saying that. So yeah, comes from South America, elevation of about 2,500 meters, wet montane forests, which should give you an idea of the kind of conditions that it needs to grow. My particular one, like I said, it did have an attack of scale, and it took me quite a while to rid it of the scale because they kind of kept getting right down in there. It was only when I got a systemic on it that it really did work for me after that. The flowers, this is a natural arch of the blooms. They start off looking quite straight and all kind of scrunchelled up, and then they naturally arch over. If you didn't know that, you might think that it was wilting, but that is the form of it. There's no scent to it. If you can look into the, see what I'll try and do is get if I hold it quite close up, and with some software, my editing software, I will try and zoom in on that, so you can see quite clearly the 3 sepals and the 3 petals. I'll just see if I can hold it still. Like I say, I'm on the selfie camera here, which isn't going to be as good quality as the back. It is only an iPhone 7 Plus, so it's in need of an upgrade. So while I'm zooming in on that, this particular plant, they think, the white paper said it was pollinated by hummingbirds, because some of the similar brassias were also pollinated by hummingbirds, but it did say that it was quite rare in the wild, this particular plant, and that nobody's ever actually seen a hummingbird pollinate it. So there was some conjecture that it could be pollinated by parasitic wasps as well. The Q information and some other information that I found from other various sources said that it's possible that it is parasitic wasp that's actually doing the pollinating of it. So I thought that was quite interesting. Okay, so that takes me to the kernes of it. So I'll tell you the kind of kernes that I've done and some of the kernes that I've found out, and whether they match up, whether it was something that was just a coincidence really and I got right, or whether I've done it by design. So first of all, we'll start with the temperatures. So it is a cool to cold growing orchid. That's probably why it's doing quite well here actually. I have written on the label keep it above 11 degrees Celsius. However, other various bits of information that I found so that it will go down to 9 degrees Celsius. Average day temperatures 18 to 20 degrees Celsius. It doesn't like to be much warmer because it is cool to cold growing, and these wet montane forests, it does particularly like a lot of air movement. Now, just where I happen to have it, it's just in line with a fan. So I've got it in exactly the right place. For most of the year, it's going to be those kind of temperatures. In this cool side of the greenhouse, I have had it down to 7 degrees at night time. So it's obviously one that is a little bit forgiving. Once it's finished blooming, that might give me an idea of what to do with it, because obviously it's coming summer here now. It's what are we now? It's Easter Sunday as I film this, and the sun will kind of come up over that side of the greenhouse. I've got it over there, so it will be in the sun, so it will get a lot warmer, a lot hotter than 20 degrees Celsius. It will go up to like 26, 27 degrees Celsius. I've got it shaded, so by that time it's finished flowering anyway, I guess, so I'll be able to move it somewhere a little bit cooler now that I know that it doesn't really like to be in the sun. Which brings me to the light. Yeah, it likes bright light, not direct sunlight as ever. Diffused, shaded is a good idea. Watering, it is quite a thirsty plant, especially when it's growing strongly like this. This particular one, it looks like quite a big pot for it, but if you look at the roots, there's quite an extensive root system, and they do go right underneath the pot. I did have it in a smaller pot, and it's one of those that likes to kind of escape from the pots. You can see it's quite high in this pot already. You can mount them. Yeah, so watering anyway, we were saying the watering is pretty intuitive really, because in summer it drinks a lot, so this does dry out pretty quickly. So in summer, keep watering it, lots and lots of copious amounts of water. It does not like to sit in water, so make sure it's raised up, or some stones underneath, or you don't sit it in the wet. And one bit of information said let it dry out, but most of them said water it just as it looks like it's about to dry out. So that will be about now for mine. You can see there's a little bit of condensation on the side of the pot, but I might give it another day and then I'll give it another water. It's growing a new growth for me there, so I'm hoping that I'll get another one next year. There's not a great deal in terms of pseudobulbs. It's one of these plants, one of these orchids that does nothing for most of the year, and then everything happens within a couple of months. You get your pseudobulb, you get your flower spike, and then you get your flowers on it. So I'll say that's watering. Humidity, it likes over 70% humidity in the growing season. When it gets to winter, it's not quite as fussed about that. You can lower it to like around about 50, or it will survive that. It is quite forgiving. Any orchid that grows in my greenhouse has to be quite forgiving, because I can do my absolute best to get all these conditions right, but for certain times of the year they're not going to get it. My best efforts just will not do. So that's watering, that's humidity. Media, I've just got it in purely bark, nothing else. It likes lots of air around its roots. This is why you can mount them. You can also grow them on rocks. Shallow baskets was something that popped up quite a bit. The wooden baskets that you put vandas in, it doesn't mind that. If you do that though, you've got to water it several times a day. One bit of information said you can put perlite in there and a little bit of sphagnum in there as well, depending on your conditions. I guess if you're in a really hot place, a little bit of sphagnum would be beneficial. So long as it's well drained and it's got lots of air around the roots, it should be okay. So that's media, humidity, watering. Said we should reduce the watering in winter. You're not going to keep all this soaking wet through the winter. As soon as it stops doing anything, that's when you stop doing those kind of things. Again, pretty intuitive, pretty obvious. Fertilisation, if you're going to fertilise it, you really must only do that during the growing period. Again, it likes a rest from fertiliser during the winter months. Quarter to half strength weekly. Now I feed it every watering, it gets some feed, except during the winter months when I don't put anything in there. I use rainwater, so there are a few little nutrients in, but not so much. You're only talking like up to about 30-40 parts per million. At the moment I'm feeding it about 200 parts per million, and it's a mixture, just like a general orchid feed really. I do put some calcium, magnesium in there occasionally as well, just to make sure that those are available to it. So that's it really. Yeah, so this is Ada Aurantiaca. This is variety punctata. The Aurantiaca is the species of this particular Ada, but even though I saw punctata listed on various websites, I could find nothing that told you about that specific variety. So I don't know, perhaps this is a rare one. I actually got this from, I know some of you will have seen of some of the other plants. I got like a whole bunch of orchids. My very first bunch of orchids was from an Orchid Society auction. And this was just a little tiny thing that didn't look very promising. So that's come from somebody else. But I'm quite happy with it. It's putting on a nice show for me. So yeah, that's that one. Ada Aurantiaca variety punctata. Not seen it anywhere else, so I'll be interested to see if any of you have got a nicer specimen than this, and whether you think that bloom is of sufficient loveliness to get yourself one. So I hope you enjoyed this little piece to camera, bit of a change from the norm. If you did, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down. I don't mind which. I'd definitely like to hear from you in the comments, and for now, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.